Well, hey now. Welcome to Fitz's Electric Bar. Fitz here. And today I'm going to look at some music and cap it with a concert involving Peter Tosh, man. Again, I will keep my mimicry down to a minimum. This is the show. Peter Tosh. I was going to university in Kingston, Queen's University, and the very small arena, Jock Carty Arena. Peter Tosh played there in the fall of 1981, Wednesday, October 14th, 1981. Very memorable. This was the second time I saw Peter Tosh, but I'm going to come back to this in a minute. First, a little context, a little background. So most people are big into Bob Marley right now with the whole UHQR thing. Marley seems to be back on people's radar. I got tired of Marley fairly early on, and I'll explain why. I think it has nothing to do with Marley and the quality of his music, but as we all know, as I guess collectors and people who are really into music, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason, or it's difficult but to say why. But a particular artist you just do not really want to listen to. You might respect them. There might be songs that you quite like, but you just really have no interest in listening to them. So with Bob Marley, for me, I heard his music a lot when I was backpacking through Europe. So anytime you were staying in a youth hostel, anytime, and kind of like a place where other backpackers were, it seemed to be Marley, wall-to-wall Marley. And interestingly, he died in the spring of 1981 when I was starting my backpacking adventure. So it may be that it was being played more just as a kind of homage, or people were sad that he had passed away, which is understandable. But for me, Bob Marley wasn't my guy, as it were, even though obviously he got great, it's got great stuff. But I did early on get the Bob Marley and the Wailers and the Birth of a Legend. And I came to really like the Wailers' music. And people don't realize maybe that the Wailers consisted primarily of three main individuals in the early days. One of them was this gentleman, Bunny Wailer. This particular record is super, super good. This was recorded a little bit later. This, not sure exactly when this came out, but Robbie Shakespeare and Sly Dunbar were the rhythm sections, the drummer bass, for this album. And he does, I think, some new reprise or new versions of some of the old Wailers songs, like I think Dancing Shoes and maybe I'm the Toughest. I'm not sure which ones, but I think there's some that are old and are being rehashed here. But this is a really good record. Don't know about its availability. I've had this for a long time, but Bunny Wailer. And so he was one of the members. Bob Marley, the second, and the third one, of course, is Mr. Peter Tosh. Where did that accent come from? It's Scottish. But this was the first Peter Tosh record I got, Legalize It, 1976. I'm not going to go through the chronology of his career because I don't have a complete collection of his music, but this album in university for me was great. I mean, part of it is, take you back to a 20-year-old college student, right? In first year, 19 or something like that. And you're just seeing this guy smoking pot and sitting in a field of marijuana plants. Seemed pretty exciting. And Peter Tosh was very serious about the whole Legalize It movement. And for many of you, you know that as a Rastafari and the Rastafarian religion, and smoking pot was part of that religion. And so probably for he and Bob Marley and others who were followers of the Rastafari religion, they would have thought the whole idea of having marijuana, something that's grown naturally, illegal, is just crazy. So this first record, Legalize It, Peter Tosh, that title track, which is really good, Why Must I Cry, and What You Gonna Do. This is a nice record, really good. So then a little later, this record came out. Again, I'm not sure that these are all, this isn't his full collection, but this is in order. So this would have been 1979, Mystic Man. This is a really good record. Love this picture of Peter Tosh on the back there on the unicycle, looking all happy. This one I know even better. So Mystic Man, which is a killer song. Recruiting Soldiers, also excellent. And Rumors of War, Buckingham Palace, and that's Buckingham Palace. Some of the patois, or I don't know, the kind of the words, how they change sort of as part of the rhyme is really, really kind of cool as well. And this is a nice record. If I were to go get a single Peter Tosh record, or if I had to take one on a desert island, this would be the one for me. Mystic Man is really, really nice. And then a little bit later, an album that I really enjoy. This one was 1983. Oh, by the way, this one is on Rolling Stone Records. And for those of us who've been around for a while, there was a really good performance of Peter Tosh with Mick Jagger, and they performed You Gotta Walk and Don't Look Back, which is an old Temptation song, and a really good duet with the two of them. That was cool. And then I guess he moved over to EMI America and put out this record, Mama Africa. Also, really, really strong record. Mama Africa, that song, Not Gonna Give It Up, Stop That Train. Really, if you're kind of want to check out Peter Tosh and you're not that familiar, suggest you go on to Spotify or whatever title and check out Johnny Be Good. So it's a reggae version of the classic Chuck Berry song, and it is really well done. It's got the whole sort of Jamaica reference instead of the original Chuck Berry lyrical references. So that's really good. And so this is a good record. But yeah, check out Johnny Be Good. I think you'd really enjoy that. So I remember seeing him a couple times. One time was at Ontario Place Forum in Toronto. And that place is subsequently morphed from Ontario Place Forum to, I think it was the Budweiser stage. And now I don't know what it's called. I forget. But anyways, the old Ontario Place Forum. And Peter Tosh came out, and he was resplendent. He wears these just these long kind of I don't know if it's robes or whatever, but lots of layers. He is, he always seemed very imposing, almost like a shaman. You know, he would come out, and it was very serious, and there would be almost a little bit like the old R&B stuff. It would be, I don't know if they would actually have a vocal rave up of, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Tosh. But the band would play for a while, and they would just lay down some really good rhythmic, rhythmic funk. Yeah, I mean, reggae, just a groove, right? And then Peter Tosh would come out. And I seem to recall, if not right at the beginning, very early on, he would have a massive cannon of a joint, right? And these are the days before legalization. And if you're smoking yourself, you're kind of hiding it or whatever. And the guy on stage is just coming on and he's just flaunting all the rules. Now, I know that they can get away with that a little bit more, but you still figure with pot in the days of complete prohibition that would have been problematic. I think it was 1980 when that would happen, and a big cigar. So fast forward 1 year later, let's say roughly, and the fall of 81, I'm at university, very kind of preppy university school. And Peter Tosh comes to play Jock Hardy Arena. And I've seen only a few shows there, bands that came there that were, I guess, of interest to me. And one of the big ones was Elvis Costello during his Wake Up Canada tour. And that would have been right after, I think, both My Aim Is True and, after This Year's Model and before Imperial Bedroom. But we're not talking about Elvis, we're talking about Peter Tosh. And I just remember him coming out and just this tremendous, powerful, rhythmic reggae beat. And I don't know if Sly and Robbie were playing with him at that time or not, but just so good and so different than the kind of rock and roll stuff that I was used to listening to, and was spellbinding. I just remember being kind of in awe watching the absolute command that he had over the audience and certainly over me as a fan. I was like, oh. It was incredible. And I was just thinking about how did I come to reggae? And I think in a way I came to reggae through a couple channels. One of them was punk, because as many of us know, there was a lot of crossbreeding between British punk and Jamaican ska music that was playing, especially in London. I think in Camden Town, there's the famous stories of the Don Letts, who had a clothing shop in Camden Town, blasting out his reggae music, and a lot of punks, and including, I think, Strummer and members of the Clash, I think Mick Jones, coming down and loving the music, getting really turned on to the music. And then they, in turn, turned him on to the whole DIY ethos. And he became, a filmmaker, documentary maker, DJ, played with Big Audio Dynamite, was a member of Big Audio Dynamite, all that kind of stuff. So that was one channel. That was kind of like, when the Clash did covers of things like Police and Thieves, there were elements of reggae and backbeat to some of their music, and they were, certainly influenced by that. The other big pathway into reggae for me was the soundtrack to The Harder They Come. I don't think I saw the movie for a long time, but that soundtrack to The Harder They Come, fortunately, it's one of my pieces of vinyl I no longer own, but I will be getting it when I can. Just great. The Slickers and Desmond Decker and Johnny You're Too Bad, and of course introducing Jimmy Cliff. And it's just one of the most killer movie soundtracks of all time, and just chock full of great ska and reggae stuff. The Harder They Come soundtrack. So that's my memory of Peter Tosh. This is Show Me Your Tickets, number 12, SMYT 12. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Nice CD collection of Peter Tosh's work as well. Jamaican Singles, disc 1 live on disc 2, and then hits and classic album cuts on disc 3. This is a really nice little CD compilation of his work, and a pretty substantial set of liner notes as well. Of course, Peter Tosh was gunned down. There was a house invasion. Somebody who was trying to take money from him. It was basically a robbery, but it was done by somebody who knew him, and he was killed during that robbery. And so, yeah, taken from us far too young, Peter Tosh, the Mystic Man.